You know, I would open this video by saying that the Utah Jazz were a big disappointment last year, but I don't even know if that's really true. Because after a few years now of the Jazz being a good regular season team but ultimately a postseason disappointment, the repeated cycle of failure ceases to be disappointing and just becomes what it is. So with that, the Utah Jazz are entering an offseason where running it back is absolutely not in the cards. This team needs to be different, and there are like a million different ways that they can become different. So let's talk about what's next for the Utah Jazz. Before I continue on with this video is sponsored by Spades Royale. Spades Royale is a game that you can download on iOS and Android, and as you may or may not have guessed from the name of the game, it's spades. Now, when I was approached to do this advertisement initially, I had actually never played spades before. I come from a Texas Hold'em family personally. However, I actually learned the game through the app, and I've been having a ton of fun with it. It's definitely a great app to have if you need to kill some time. I was recently at the vet with my dog, pictured here. Yes, thank you. He is a very cute boy. And when I was sitting in the lobby, I just played this game the entire time, and it passed the time extremely well. With this app, you can create your own custom avatar and compete with people online along with a partner, either someone that you know personally or just someone the game pairs you with. You get dealt your hand, and based on how good the hand you get is, you and your partner pick the amount of hands you think you can win. If you reach that predicted amount, you're good, and you get 10 points for every one hand and 1 point for every hand over your predicted bet. But if you go under, you get 0 points for any of the hands you won, and it's you and your partner versus another pair. First to 500 total points wins. Honestly, the biggest strategy in the game and the most important part is making sure you make the right bet, because it's tempting to swing really high in hopes that you get a lot of points, but you also don't want to go so high that you waste the round and don't get any points at all. You really have to gauge really with the hand that you're dealt what realistic amount of hands you can really win. Trust me, I learned this the hard way. Now, as much as I could talk about the customization or the coin system or really all the fancy things that exist within this app, the best way to pitch it to you would be rather simply, if you enjoy spades, you're going to enjoy this app. It's as simple as that. If you are interested in downloading this game, then hit the link at the top of the description or in the pinned comment, and make sure you hit my link specifically rather than seeking it out somewhere else, because if you hit my link, you get a free 1,000 coins the moment that you join. You're not going to get that anywhere else, so seriously, hit my link in the description and the pinned comment. And thank you again to Spades Royale for sponsoring this video. Now, this What's Next for X Team video is going to be a little bit different from what you typically get within this mini-series, I guess. See, I usually end these videos with a pretty solid and concrete plan for what a team should do in the offseason, but I'm not going to do that this time. Mainly because, first of all, this team could go into a multitude of directions, and second, I don't have too many strong opinions on any of those potential directions. The only opinion I have regarding these potential changes, whatever they may be, it must be at least somewhat drastic, and whatever happens, Donovan Mitchell must remain on this roster. Now, that's what I think should happen, not necessarily what will. There have been a lot of rumors and speculation as to the unhappiness of Mitchell in Utah, and there's been connection to the Knicks and all of those rumors, but at least from Utah's perspective, I think trading Mitchell is a no-go. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to focus on two routes that I think I would be 100% down to see with the Jazz, versions of this team that I would like to see going forward, both of which require a big overhaul of the roster. And these two potential routes can really just be split up into the one where you trade Rudy Gobert and the one where you don't. Again, there is the Donovan Mitchell trade route, but I'm not going to talk about it because A, I think it's a bad idea, and B, I don't think it's going to happen. So let's start with the not trading Rudy Gobert route. I know, the boring one. If you're not trading Gobert, to me, instantly everyone on the roster is fully up for grabs to the rest of the league, obviously excluding Mitchell. And I want to see a 2018 Cavs trade deadline level overhaul of this roster. And that overhaul needs to happen with one specific aspect of the game in mind: perimeter defense. I need to see this team overhaul their perimeter defense and then some, while remaining a pretty good three-point shooting team. And if they're going to do that, if they're going to commit to this Mitchell Gobert thing, if they think perimeter defense, their number one weakness currently, being solved could equal championship, then I want to see them go all the way with it. I mean trading draft capital and potentially butchering your long-term future level of all the way. If you're going to commit, commit. No half-stepping or no half measures. I didn't have to say the statement twice, but a Breaking Bad reference felt a lot more natural to me than a Big Daddy Kane reference. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth with actual trades, just overall, point of attack defenders, perimeter defense as a whole. If this team went into next season with similar shooting but a huge perimeter defense upgrade, I'd believe in them going a lot further than I have in the past. But now let's talk about the trade Gobert route. This is a route that is a lot more tedious and long-term than just simply overhauling the perimeter defense, but it's probably a more interesting one. And the whole approach would be essentially turning over this team's identity from Rudy Gobert to Donovan Mitchell. Because regardless of who you feel between these two players is the actual best player on the team, it's Rudy Gobert, whatever. Regardless, there's no denying that the team is built around Rudy Gobert much more than it is Donovan Mitchell. Which one of these players can you remove from the equation and it still feels like the Utah Jazz? It's definitely not Gobert. So trading Rudy, you are shifting your identity more to the offensive side of the court, but still, of course, wanting to be a good defense. But there's going to be a lot more time between now and when this team is like good, because it's going to be a couple year process. You just hope that this version of good has less of a cap on it than the previous version of good after these years have passed. That makes sense, right? It does in my head at least, so I hope it does. Now, breaking down a Rudy Gobert trade, your main goal would be to get a star-level player, or at least a soon-to-be star-level player, who is relatively young, so he fits a timeline with Donovan Mitchell. And really, I think it's more realistic that you get somebody who really has that potential rather than someone who's established now, because most teams that would be willing to trade for Rudy Gobert want to keep their guys who are established for now. In my What's Next for the Mavericks video, I mentioned the idea of Jalen Brunson and a sign and trade, and that's an idea. Maybe Brunson in the playoffs ends up being Brunson overall, and now you have a great backcourt with him and Mitchell, but I definitely think you can do better than that. Maybe you get DeAndre Hunter and Onyeka Okongwu from the Hawks. Both, I think, can be star-level players under the right circumstances, and there'd be opportunity plenty in Utah. And Vooch and Patrick Williams, that trade, I think, would be an interesting mix of kind of what you need, because you would get perhaps star-level production from Vucevic again, but only for a little bit of time as he is older. But maybe Patrick Williams develops into a star that he's shown flashes of being. Maybe the Nets could do Ben Simmons for Gobert. That would be interesting. I'm sure they would be open to it. Maybe the Hornets would give you Miles Bridges in a sign and trade. That would be great. Maybe the Blazers would do a Anthony Simons sign and trade plus whoever they take with their lottery pick. A DeAndre Ayton sign and trade center swap actually makes a lot of sense when you really look into it. Those are just some ideas, and then going forward, you're just trying to improve the roster as much as you can. You might kind of fall into the problem of with Mitchell, you're too good to be like really high in the lottery, but really not a great playoff team either. But if you are good management-wise, you can overcome that hurdle. So these are one of the two avenues that I would like to see the Utah Jazz take, if I were a Jazz fan anyways, because that's how I approach these videos. And that's an important distinction, because a lot of people have opinions on the Jazz that I feel do not adequately take into account what the Jazz would want, and it's more about what they as a fan would just be interested in seeing. As much as I know people want to see this team blow it up, seeing these stars on other teams and all that, NBA franchises are not operating on what you think would be fun. You not liking the Jazz as they are is not going to make the Jazz make decisions that aren't in their best interest. And that includes running it back with maybe just a couple of perimeter defensive upgrades if that's what they think is best for their franchise. And some NBA people are going to be annoyed by it, but they're better off for themselves doing that. It is what it is. Thank you again to Spades Royale for sponsoring this video, and shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.